Hello viewers from wherever you're watching us from. You're watching QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station, and we're broadcasting live from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue. And just to remind you that this program is proudly sponsored by Indian Institute of Hardware Technology located on Kairaba Avenue. Well, this week I'm joined on the program by a veteran journalist and broadcaster, Nena McDowell-Gay, who is the chairperson of the Access to Information Commission, a body established by the current government of Adama Barrow to oversee the implementation of the Access to Information Act 2021. Well, this act now allows the public to have access or give the public the right to access information held by public authorities, promoting transparency and accountability. The enactment was followed by, with the creation of the, like I said, the Access to Information Commission and the subsequent appointment of commissioners chaired by, like I said, the veteran broadcaster, Nena McDowell-Gay. Mark, thank you so much. Good to have you in the program, and thank you so much for agreeing to come on the State of Affairs program.
Sure, you're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Like I said, the Access to Information was passed in 2021, something that was hailed as a breakthrough under the current government of Adama Barrow. Could you share with us as to what are the concrete steps that your commission has taken since then to ensure, this law is operationalized?
Okay, thank you very much, Aliu. First of all, let's just give it a little bit of a background. As you rightly said, the bill was passed in July 2021. And the same year, actually a month later in August, the President of the Republic, President Adama Barrow, signed it into law, which, as you rightly said, really, it's a very laudable achievement for a developing country. The way it actually started, which is not uncommon, is the media and civil society. They put a lot of pressure on governments to bring about access to information. And this is not uncommon, and this is exactly what had happened. It started with the GPU, and then later on the civil society formed a coalition on Access to Information Commission and put a lot of pressure on government. And in a very short while, I understand, the president of Adama Barrow took it upon themselves and worked on a bill, took it to the National Assembly, it got passed, and then a month later he signed it into law. Now, this is laudable, and also it's a very bold move for any developing country. I would recall one time when we were told about President Tony Blair, or Prime Minister Tony Blair, when they passed the bill and they have access to it, right to information law, they call it right to information. At one time he openly said that if there's anything he regretted was assenting to it, bringing it into being. Not to say that was wrong, but actually, I think what he was trying to drive at was it was not an easy thing. That's a very bold move. So imagine for a developing country, where most developing countries, if not all, has developed this culture of silence. And the culture of silence has been since the colonial era. And looking at the Gambia, we have built that culture of silence since the colonial era, going into the Jawara regime, and then Jammeh, and of course now. So it's quite a bold step, and we must commend the government for that. Now, shortly after the bill got passed, I think a lot of work was done by the civil society and GPU in trying to bring about awareness. Of course, that wasn't enough for people to really get a grasp of what access to information is all about, but they did a lot of work around it. And eventually, last year, they appointed 5 commissioners. That 5 commissioners, which I chair, which I'm the chairperson, we got sworn in September. And of course now we have to begin to work. And since then, as you rightly said, we have done a lot of work behind the scenes. Not enough, I would say, in the sense that for us to effectively implement this access to information law, it takes all hands on deck, particularly public institutions, government holders, because without them, there would be no access to information because they're the information holders. So what we have been doing is we have been having a lot of engagements with the information holders, trying to sensitize them on the law itself. Of course, the onus is also on them to read the law and to do what the law says, because they also have a very important part to play in this whole process. But I think that's just a little bit of background, and I would just stop here.
So aside from trying to help these information holders in these public institutions to better understand this law, what more has the Commission done to ensure this law is actually operationalized?
Okay, for it to be operationalized, we need regulations. And of course, the regulations, the government has to take lead in that. But we know that there are some limitations. So the Commission took it upon themselves, and we worked on the draft regulations and conducted technical review, and of course sent it back to the Ministry of Information. And what the Ministry of Information has done now is to send it back to the Attorney General's chambers, so that they can go through the draft and see whatever needs to be done to kind of fine-tune it, after which there will be a validation. So currently, which is a very important part of the implementation, because it is the regulations that would definitely operationalize the law, and that is so critical in this whole process. So right now, we're expecting that any moment now, it should come back to the Ministry of Information, after which, in consultation with the Commission, we will work on validating the regulations. But another thing we have done really is we have also worked on policies and some procedures to help us. And very critical in this whole business is to have a secretariat. The reason that it took this long for us to set up a secretariat has to do with some funding. But it's getting better, and it is very important that we set this up right now, because without the secretariat, we will not be able to successfully implement the law. So far, we have advertised for key positions, core positions, and very importantly among the positions is the Executive Secretary. We conducted the interview about 6 weeks back, and right now we're in the process of appointing the Executive Secretary, which will be followed by other core staff members. Then next year, we will want to bring the technical staff on board. So I would say for this first year, we're trying to get our feet on the ground. Effective next year, we should be able to start full operations. Another very important thing that the Information Commission should be doing, and we are not doing, and I would not say it's any fault of ours, is limited funding. We do not have the funds to, because importantly, which also the Act has given us that power and responsibility, is to create awareness, sensitize the general public about access to information, let people know how they can access information, and importantly, the information holders also sensitize them, build their capacity as to how they can give back information to the citizenry. And so we have not been able to do that effectively. So we kind of went around it because of lack of funding. So what we have been doing is to go on an outreach program, an interpersonal communication with ministries, where we invite ministers and their key senior staff, talk to them about the implementation of the law and other public institutions. Also, for the complaints that we have received, complaints around denied access to information, we have also engaged, in fact, all those institutions that had received requests for information. And what we found out is they have not really taken time to read the Act, which we're not blaming them for, because I know capacity is one issue and other priorities, although it's a priority. But again, that's why we have the responsibility to go on a campaign to create that awareness, and it should be ongoing. So when we talk to these officials at the various ministries and other public institutions, we get to find out that, for example, let me give you an example. You would request for information from a particular institution, and everything would just go silent. So what we found out is they didn't even know that within 21 days there should be a response, either giving the information or denying the request, or asking for an extension for another 14 days. So these are all made for in the law. So that is why I said there are these gaps. But come early next year, okay, I think we should have been able to really get on a campaign because funding would have been available.
Good. I mean, let me now bring you a little back. I mean, earlier on you mentioned about the issue of the regulation which has been formulated and will be validated. Why has it taken you so long, or why has it taken the country so long to have this regulation in place? This law was passed since 2021.
It was passed since 2021, but again there was no commission. Remember that? Okay. So when the commission got set up in September, we were trying to get an office, and we must thank the government because we know there are commissions that take a long time even before they can find an office. So thank God and thank the government that we were able to. So we were doing those things on the ground, trying to get furniture, and again I would commend and thank the West African Regional Integration Digital Integration Project, WADIP, yeah, for helping us with some equipment. That has also supported us a whole lot. So we were really trying to get our feet on the ground. And up till now we are, because as I said, this requires a lot of funding, which we don't have right now. So, so 2021 it was passed, but the commission came into being in latter part of 2024. So latter part of 2024, we were trying to settle down in and get an office space, get some furniture, get some basic work plan in place and things like that. So eventually we had to go on a study tour, which is important because access to information is new. So we had the opportunity to go to Ghana on a study tour. Now, upon our return from Ghana, that's when we started working on the draft regulation. And as I said, this is it is government owned, but then the ministry doesn't have legal, they would depend on AG's chambers, Attorney General's chambers, and of course you know how much work is with them. So since we have a commissioner responsible for legal affairs, and we have just come back from Ghana where we've also looked at their regulations, so we thought we could support the ministry by working on the regulations, because we need the regulations to operationalize the law effectively, because it now gives us the concrete framework to be able to implement the law. So it's really key. So we took it upon ourselves to support the ministry by doing the regulations, the draft regulations, and then had a technical review. And after the technical review now, it's with the ministry. And as I said, it has now been sent to the AG's chambers. Hopefully it will be back, and then there would be validation.
And talking about this study tour, why Ghana? Why do you choose to go to Ghana?
Well, we chose to go to Ghana because, one, it's a neighbor, it's a West African country. We have some similarities in terms of culture, in terms of a little bit of history here and there. So we thought rather than going way away from home, we would go to Ghana. And another thing was costs as well. As I said, funding is limited.
You keep emphasizing the lack or limited funding as far as the work of the commission is concerned. Who is responsible for funding the commission?
Government. And they take care of the rent, the salaries, some other operational expenses, but it is not enough. So it is also the responsibility, which again, if you look at the Act, we can also seek funding elsewhere. So what we did was, late last year, we decided to go on a resource mobilization to Dakar, where you have a lot of embassies and donor agencies settled. They're located in Dakar. So we did that, and it looks very promising. Even though at the time we were going there, I would say that that would be 2025 budget already had been taken care of. But now we are expecting a lot of support in 2026 budget because of that resource mobilization. And even locally here, we have been interacting with agencies for support. So that's not uncommon, really. So another thing, when the commission becomes very functional, some of the penalty fees and other things would also come to the commission. So it's a starting, and there's no start that is easy. So of course we have these difficulties, but we will overcome them.
So let's be clear about issue of funding. I mean, you confirm that government is responsible, but also under the Act you can also do your own fundraising.
Yeah.
Was there any budget allocation for the Commission in this year's budget?
Yes, yes, yes.
How much are we talking about in terms of allocation?
Well, for now, what we do get from government is access to information. So we have to set the example.
Exactly.
We get 1 million every month from the government.
Okay.
Yes. And we have done our budget for next year.
So we can say that's 24 million in a year?
Yeah.
Okay.
1 million a month.
Oh, 12 million, right. 12
yes.
million, 12
yes,
million,
12
pardon
million.
me, 12
yes.
million, not
yes.
24, 12
not
million,
24.
yeah, it's 12 months.
We wish. Yes.
I hope President Barrow will at least make it 24 every month.
We hope so, and we've prepared our budget for next year as well. So for example, as I said, any start is difficult. It's pretty new because, for example, we do not have even vehicles as we speak right now. So, but we are hoping that next year these things will come on board. We'll have more funding, we'll have more support from the government, we'll have vehicles to take us as far as Central and Upper Regional, all the up to Fatoto, because we have to do all those outreach. And I would say we have done a lot of concept notes for outreach programs for sensitization. So yes, next year looks very promising for us in terms of funding. One, because of the resource mobilization that we embarked upon, and secondly, I'm very sure that government would augment the budget that we will have next year. And also we're looking at other ways and means of really getting money and also getting support in kind as well. See, let's say, for example, which also I must say, Freedom House in the past had supported us with a retreat, at which time we looked at the national roadmap on the implementation of the law. That is another thing that we accomplished, because at the start, when GPU initiated the access to information affair, they had prepared an implementation, a roadmap for the implementation. And then the Ministry of Information also prepared a roadmap, a guide for the implementation. So we thought that both documents should be consolidated. So that's another thing that we did. And thanks to Freedom House at the time, they supported us in that. We had a retreat and looked at both documents, consolidated the documents and got that validated. So that's another good document that we can use for the implementation as well. The regulations that we worked on is also another good document. Of course, that is very critical in operationalizing the law. And as I said, very importantly is setting up the secretariat, because no commission can really run without a secretariat, because the secretariat is the unit that would be running the day-to-day operations of the commission. Now the commissioners now take their role, their oversight responsibility, work on policies, guidelines, and the secretariat carry out the day-to-day running. So that's another.
From your own understanding, how aware is the average Gambian as far as this new law is concerned?
Not very much. And again, it boils down to non-sensitization, creating awareness, which I said that is our priority area right now. We have done a number of concept notes which were sent out. There's one with UNDP, there's another one with ECOWAS, there's another one with other institutions, so that once we get all this funding, we're going to embark on a campaign, because what we need is a campaign. We don't need one-off discussion, like maybe I'm here today and then maybe 2 days later another commissioner is on a radio station. By the time, you know, we settle down, one would have forgotten. What we need right now is a campaign. Pam, pam, pam.
And let's start the campaign now. For example, if I want to, you know, access information from a particular public institution, what are the guidelines or what are the procedures? How do I go about, seeking this information?
Well, it's your right.
Okay.
The Act gives you that absolute right to request for information. Now, let's say, and it could be, it is that another thing we would like in our campaign to make clear, it's not just for journalists or politicians, it's for everybody. It's for everybody. It's for even the farmer way out in the rural area. That's the power of access to information, because what access to information does, if it is well implemented, it brings the citizenry very close to the government. It becomes now a full participatory democracy. And what it also does is fights disinformation and misinformation, because you have the information readily from the people who have the information. So now if you need information from any institution, you write, you can request. In fact, we make it so easy. The law makes it easy. If you cannot even write, or let's say you can't write, you can even ask someone else to write for you. So you write to the institution, you can contact them in whatever form is easy for you, and it is your right to have that information, except if it is an exempted information, because it's not all information that can be given out. So when the institution receives the request, as per the law, within 21 days, you should be replied, you should be responded to. As I said earlier, it's either you're given the information or you're denied, and you should be given a reason for that denial. Now, when you have the information, whatever you want to do with the information, it's your right. Now, if you are denied, it's your right too to write to the Information Commission and lodge your complaint. And
does this apply to every information that you want to know about, or there's a restriction?
Yeah, there are some exemptions.
Exemption, okay.
There are some exemptions. Exemptions like, of course, every state has their secrets. Exemptions like state security, anything that has to do with security, defense, third-party information, because if I should request now, let's say, to the hospital, some information pertaining to you, or your personal data, that's a third-party information. Okay. Commercial interest too, especially if that information would jeopardize, you know, your ability to do business properly. So you have commercial interests, you have commercial secrets, you have laws that if you have information that if you share information like that, it might bring a rift between two countries, things like that. Cabinet papers, cabinet decisions. Those are all not. They are exempted. You cannot just get. I mean, even in Ghana, you see that. You know, I told you we went there for study tour. You have all of those listed out as exemptions.
And you can only make the request through writing.
No, you can also, because it's not everybody who can write.
Exactly, that's what I'm asking.
It's not everybody who can write. In fact, one of our plans, I know that would be in the future, is to set up information centers all over the country and staff that. That's a long-term plan, because as I said, it requires money and training, capacity building. But again, those information centers would be for people to walk there and someone help them, either using the computer to send a request or using the phone to make a request. As I said, once it is your right to access information, you're not limited how you can access the information. And as I said, unless it is exempted, you have all the right to get that.
So has any public institution in any way resisted or failed to comply with the law? And if yes, how has the Commission responded to
yes,
such?
that has happened. As I said, our right now, the limitations are because of the regulations and because we have not done much sensitization and capacity building. Because these information holders need to be sensitized as well, their capacity needs to be built, and we're working hand in glove with the Ministry of Information, because they have a technical arm, that's the Department of Information, working with institutions to definitely operationalize the law as well, get to understand the law. For example, all institutions, all public institutions should send us their implementation plan. So the ministry is taking lead in that. So yes, we have had instances like that. And for now, our choice of addressing the issue is more of mediation. Even without the
more like a dispute resolution, sort of?
Exactly. Which is what is all over the world, that is what they're doing. It's the first thing you go for. But also, if you try that measure, if you try that path, and things are not coming up, and you know this is information that definitely is not exempted, and there is no genuine reason to withhold that information. The law also gives us the powers to take other actions, other punitive measures. But as again, we can only begin those when we have the regulations. We can even go to the point of going to court. But what we would like to see is to mediate. But now, as I said, our hands are tied because we're working on the regulations, and I know also that the gap, the wide gap, is the sensitization that has not taken place yet, which I am promising that very shortly we will begin that once the funds begin to come in. And also, I would take the opportunity also to apologize to the requesters that have sent in complaints, and it's taken a long time to address it. Not that we have not done anything about it. Every complaint we have received, we have contacted the information holder.
So how many complaints are we talking about here?
I would say about 14.
Oh, okay.
About 14.
All from journalists or from the public?
From the public. From the, well, some are from journalists and another one from civil society. And yes, and then we have two requests copied to us. But as I said, for all the institutions, all the information holders that have received requests for information, and we receive complaints of denial, we have written to them, followed by interpersonal meeting. Okay. We met them, we discussed, and that's when we realized that some of them actually they're not refusing per se. I think one, it's because of that culture of silence. There's some amount of fear, and secondly, not knowing what the law says. I mean, for a number of institutions that we have visited, when we said, but you know, you're going against the law, because when you get a request within 21 days, you should respond to the requester, but sometimes they're surprised.
So in this case, if I'm to write to a particular institution to ask for certain information, who do I address my requester? Is it the information officer, the permanent secretary, the minister, the director, who? Again,
if you go through the Act, every public institution should appoint information officers and deputy information officers.
And in fact, trained and qualified information officers. It's very clear in the Act.
Yes. Yeah. And the deputy information officers is just in case the information officer has traveled. So you find out that the Act has adequately covered the interest and the right of the requester. So another thing that needs to be done is all these public institutions need to submit the information officers and the deputy information officers to the Ministry of Information, and this has to be gazetted. And then they have to do their implementation plans and submit it to the Commission. Now, with the information officers, I think also there was a misunderstanding within some institutions. They thought it should just be any information because the word officer. So when we make our rounds or during our interactions with institutions that, you know, as I said, it's still ongoing, yeah. Some of them realize that no, these should not be junior officers at all. These should be very high-ranking officials who can definitely determine and who can definitely have access to the information that the request is asking for. So the information officers should be the permanent secretaries, for example, the deputy permanent secretaries, yes. Or anybody else they may have delegate or they would delegate to carry that responsibility.
Well, viewers, you're watching QTV State of Affairs program with me, Aliou Cissé, and my guest this week is Nene Magdol Gay, who's the chairperson of the Gambia's Access to Information Commission. We will go with a short break, and when we return, discussion continues. Do stay tuned.
Welcome to IHT Gambia, your gateway to world-class IT education and hands-on training. At IHT, choose from diploma programs tailored to today's in-demand tech fields, introduction to IT, database administration with data analytics, advanced software development, cybersecurity, multimedia, graphic design and digital marketing. AI and machine learning, Cisco Certified Network Associate, CCNA, Master Industry Leading Tools and Languages, Python, Java, Oracle, Cisco, Microsoft Visual Studio, and more to gain real-world skills that top employers seek. And right now, enjoy special discounts of $4,000 to $10,000 depending on your chosen program. Visit us at 55 Karoba Avenue, Fejora, Kanefin Municipality. Call 3464161 4526974 6311320 or learn more at ihtgambia.gm. IHT Gambia, connecting talent to opportunity.
Hello viewers, welcome back from that short break. Just to remind you that this program is sponsored rather by Indian Institute of Hardware Technology located on Kairaba Avenue. As you have just watched on that advertisement, you can visit them and start, building your professional career in IT. Honorable, welcome back. From that break. You mentioned about the issue of, people filing in their request to institutions to seek information. In January this year, the Republic, an investigative platform, said they have submitted 9 letters of review for refusal, to the Commission. They sent letters to the Central Bank of the Gambia, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Finance, the Gambia Revenue Authority, the National NAWEC as well. But in some instances, their requests weren't honored.
Yes, we have received, I think, we received complaints from him regarding the Central Bank, NAWEC. I wish I had my file here. Yes, quite a number of them. Also, I think there was another one for
GPPA. Because according to GPPA responded.
GRA, geology as well.
Geology, Ministry of Finance and
Ministry
Economic
of
Affairs.
Finance. That is
Ministry of
correct.
Petroleum as well.
Yes. No, we have not received any complaint regarding the Ministry of Petroleum. But all these other ones we have definitely received, and he is right. And as I said, the limitations, as I said again, has to do with the regulations. And for all these institutions that he has reported he's complained about to the Commission, we definitely wrote to all these institutions, and we made sure that we engaged with the institutions. Now, for example, I'll just give you one example. Like that's the one from the Central Bank. Okay. We have engaged them, but the request had to do with a lot of, according to the Central Bank, with a lot of third-party information. So what it is because of the lack of regulation and because of the lack of sensitization, because the regulation allows us to also, impose some measures, punitive measures, which right now we have not gotten to that point yet. And as I said, another key aspect missing is the Secretariat as well. But we have not given up. We're still engaging these institutions. Recently, we had a meeting with NAWEC. They're not opposed to actually giving out information. As I said, when we contacted them, we realized that they didn't even know, for example, that within 21 days. But as soon as that was brought to their attention, they wrote a letter, and we had another engagement with them, and they're considering through their legal department of what information to give. Because what we also advise the institutions that are receiving these requests is to redact where they feel it's a third-party information, where they feel that it's a data that cannot be given out, that can be redacted. If it is challenged, it is our responsibility to look into what has been challenged. Because as I said, it's not all information that can be given, but sometimes public interest can override that holding back. So these are all...
because they can use third parties to say, okay, because it's third party, we're going to give us information.
Yeah, but we have the responsibility to investigate that, and that's where the Secretariat is important, because we have to have compliance and monitoring unit, we have to have investigation unit. These are, when we have these units and they are staffed, well-staffed, well-trained, these are staff members that can go out and investigate. They have the right. And we can also request, let's say, for example, I want information from you and I'm denied. The Commission has the right to ask you for that information, and you should give us that information. So these are all there, really. The law definitely makes it that important and fundamental.
Yeah, because for me, it's one thing to really understand what the Act, says about, giving information, but it is another thing to ensure you have, like you said, highly qualified and trained information officers in place. Yes. Are these institutions really proactive in ensuring they have this thing in place? It is one thing, though, law is one thing, but having this thing also in place is another thing.
You're right. And I know that quite a number of institutions have now submitted information officers and deputy information officers to the Ministry of Information, and that should be gazetted as soon as that is complete. As I said, we're working hand in glove with them, because the Access to Information Commission, the Information Commission alone cannot implement the Act. We are there to oversee and to enforce. But now, the information holders have to play their own role. It is very critical that they understand the law and they respect the law and they obey the law. And the Ministry of Information is doing a good job going after the public institutions to submit information holders and the names of the information holders and the deputy information holders, and also they're going after them to get their implementation plans to the Commission. Another thing that we would need to be doing is to be submitting annual reports, and in these reports we would have to indicate how many complaints have gone out to what number of institutions, what institutions have responded, what number of institutions, and how many complaints they have denied and why. All of that we would need to report on that. And another thing we can do as a punitive measure also is to shame the institutions that have no legal right or no apparent or genuine reason to deny information. And the good thing about giving out information, it fights against disinformation and misinformation. And that is why also in the law, it speaks very strongly about proactive disclosure.
Okay.
And whenever I say proactive disclosure, I always like to commend Honorable Minister of Information, Media and Broadcasting Services,
Dr. Ismail,
for bringing up the Mansakunda and also the regular press conferences and also going to the radio at all,
because
all the time.
I have seen even ministers who hardly give me the interviews are now appearing on Mansakunda.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so he makes sure that all the ministers come to Mansakunda and talk about their policies, their achievements, their challenges, and you have people, university students and other members of the public there to ask the questions. I think that's...
Okay, so I would like to know from you, do you have any plan of maybe publishing periodic report?
Oh yeah, we have
to say, okay, these are the number of complaints we have received and these are the number of requests?
Absolutely, we have to. We have to do that to the public. We have to submit to the National Assembly, to the public, and to the Ministry of Information.
Okay.
That is in the Act, and we have to, and we're compiling that.
And close to, related to information is about safety. Is there any framework that protects whistleblowers?
It is in the Act as well.
Okay.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Earlier on, you kept emphasizing the importance, okay, the lack or inadequate funding. I mean, you confirmed that, I mean, government is should be responsible for funding the commission. In that case, how independent is the commission? Because one will say, you don't buy the hands that feed you.
Correct. But I would say we're independent.
Oh, okay.
Independent in the sense that already request for information has come from all angles to different institutions, from the Office of the President to the Ministry of Lands to Fisheries, and not for once have we ever received a call or be summoned by any authority to ask us or to influence our decision. And these are institutions that we wrote to with set up appointments. In fact, for example, with the Office of the President, we wrote to the Office of the President, addressed to the Secretary General, and a meeting was also held with the Secretary General on the issue of the request. And we have not for once been told not to or been influenced in any way.
No political interference?
No.
Not anyone calling and saying, no, madam, please.
That has not happened yet. That has not happened, and I don't foresee that, because at the start, when it is pretty difficult, everybody is jittery about access to information. Let's face it, that's just real. And as I said, I'm giving you an example of Prime Minister Tony Blair, when he said one of his greatest regrets was passing that, you know. So, yes, I mean, it's new, it's starting, so it's kind of scary. I mean, we're not used to that. We have this culture of silence and really So this is the right time for us to be influenced by politicians or by authorities to say, you receive this, don't do this, ABC, but not once have we ever been asked any questions regarding the complaints that we've received. And as I said, we have written to every institution that has, yes, we are not where we want it yet. I'm sure the requesters are impatient, as you said, you mentioned about Mustafa K. Dabo.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're impatient, and as I said, I would take the opportunity to apologize to them to bear with us. We'll definitely get there. The starting is never easy, but as I said, we wrote to each and every institution, and we not only ended, we didn't stop there, we held meetings with them and bring out some very important aspects of the law. Now, sometimes we live with promises that they will communicate to the requester, and sometimes they give us some legal reasons. But again, we are not stopping there. We will still follow up on some of these requests to the point where we understand if it has to do with third party, we will understand that. And those things, as I said, can be redacted. Things that the law allows you or the law gives you protection over, that can be redacted.
One watching will agree with me that, I mean, one of the major barriers to access to information, not only in the Gambia, is the issue of record keeping.
Yes.
It's a huge challenge. What are you doing to ensure, I mean, there's that proper keeping of information for maybe in the next 20 years, next 30 years, you can ask for information and get it?
Absolutely.
We have seen instances where ministries got burnt.
Yes.
And most of the documents are gone.
Just as we speak, last night we were submitting a request to JICA,
okay,
you know, the technical cooperation arm of the Japanese government. Yeah. And that's exactly what we were submitting for them to help us, not only for the commission to help us in terms of digitizing our information and storing them so that there would be easy retrieval, not only for the commission, but also for government institutions. Because again, if you go through the law, that's another responsibility bestowed on the commission. So we want to work with as many partners as we can to help institutions to make sure that their record keeping is at another level, to get them digitized, get them organized in a manner in which, if they want to retrieve information, it would just be at a fingertip. Because as you rightly said, we have that problem. Everything is in paper,
you go to ministries, you see pile of files, and
yes,
you know, like I said, we have seen instances where, I mean, got some ministries or some offices got burnt, whether it was deliberate or not, we cannot ascertain that, but it has happened, and meaning all that information is gone.
Apart from the fact that they would be secured if you get them properly done, digitized and all of that, apart from the fact that it would be secured, is the easy access to the information. You don't need, for example, today, maybe if you want something from a particular institution, it might take you months because they're digging through the files. They're going from one room to another room looking for a particular file that may be about 10, 12 years old. And so if all of those are digitized, organized in a manner, it's just at your fingertip if you ask for that information. So that is another thing that...
And are you from JICA, like you said, the Japan Corporation sort of, I mean, are you also considering working with the National Record Services?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
We will. We will. And for all these things, again, we need funding for that. Yeah. But as I said, I'll stop harping on the issue of funding, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel, as I said.
Your Excellency, I know you must be watching this interview right now, so please make sure there's more funding for the access to information, right?
No, there's light at the end of the tunnel, as I said, with our resource mobilization. Okay. We have been taken care of in some of the 2026, some of the institutes, some of the donor agencies we contacted. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. Come next year, we should be doing a lot of work. And then the Secretariat would have been up and running as well. And the regulations would have been up and running. So we definitely need to embark on this campaign, awareness campaign, the sensitization campaign.
And when you look at, I mean, the case of the country, I mean, you mentioned earlier on that, you know, you also intend to go on a nationwide tour, perhaps, you know, sensitize the rural people about this law. Are you in any way considering using, I mean, local leaders, maybe the chiefs, the alcalos, and all those things?
As a matter of fact, one of the commissioners...
Because most of them, they are not aware of this law.
One of the commissioners responsible for outreach, Commissioner Babukar Cham.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he has done a lot of work in that. He has consulted some chiefs And in his project proposal, you will find out that he will be interacting with a lot of local community leaders, women leaders, youth leaders, chiefs, alkalulu, religious leaders, and that would be part of the outreach. In fact, for his concept is a caravan kind of. We will be using a caravan from one town to the other, and of course he would have to go on an advance party. Already he's interacted with quite a number of chiefs. So those are all things that we're working on right now. And it would not be a one-off thing. It would be, I know doing a caravan all the way up to the last part of the country is not something you can do every week or every month, but at least if we do that twice in the year, and then we want to also use community radio stations. They're very effective because community radio stations is like, you know, every community member listens to their community radio station. So we want to use community radio stations. And coming closer to this end and with the area of IT, I know a lot of people would say we don't have a website yet. Very shortly we'll have a website up and running and social media angles. It seems like you were going to ask.
I was coming to whether there's a plan to have a central online portal.
Yes.
Where perhaps you can just file your request online without needing to.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes, that's also there to have these online portals where you can just go on and submit your request. We'll have that. We'll have other social media handles as well.
So in the next, 12 months, what is the Commission's top priorities?
In the next 12 months. Okay, first of all, working with the ministry to get the regulations up and running, get it validated, which is important for the operationalization of the law. And then the other very important priority area is the awareness creation, the sensitization, which we're working on right now. And we have to embark on that as soon as possible, because it's disadvantageous to the general public not to know about the law. And also another priority area is capacity building for information officers, deputy information officers. And we are hoping to get some support from ECOWAS to do that, which we will hopefully, we might be able to do that by the end of the year to build the capacity of these officers. And then another...
So that's the one you're going to work with ECOWAS?
Well, in terms of funding, yes.
Funding, okay.
They will help us with the funding. We're hopeful, yes, we're hopeful about that, because we held a meeting with ECOWAS already on that, and it looks promising, and we've submitted the project proposal already. So that's another priority area for us. And very key for us, as I said, is the regulations and the sensitization and getting the Secretariat up and running, because we need all those important units, all those departments. We need the investigations, we need the legal and compliance, we need the monitoring and evaluation, and also we need a unit, a communications department that would really help out, especially with the social media handles and other things, yeah.
So now, without all these things, without a functioning secretariat, without investigators, like you said, communication, all those things, can we say we just have, the commission is just there as a name?
Not really, because as I said, I have outlined some of the things that we have done. We have really done a lot, and in the background, all these things are going on, because the Secretariat, as I said, we did terms of reference for the core staff. We advertised. We got applicants, we shortlisted, we interviewed, and very shortly the appointments would take place. We're starting with an executive secretary, which is very key, followed by the admin and finance, accountant, and communications department. Those are the key ones that we will have for a start, and an admin assistant. And then early next year, we'll have these other technical units, which are very, very, very important. And
so what, now with the limited resources, limited funding, do you think this is sustainable?
Absolutely, it is. Because as I said, government cannot do it alone, obviously. And so far, we're grateful. As I said, you have commissions that take like 6, 7, 8 months before they even settle down in an office. but we have an office space. We have other things that we're working with, computers and things like that. And as I said, we have done this consolidation of the national roadmap. We have worked on the draft regulations. We have tons of proposals, as I said, like the ones sent to ECOWAS and the ones sent to other institutions for the outreach program. We're building our own capacity because right now, as we speak, one of the commissioners is attending a data governance in Dakar. We have another commissioner that would be going to China in a short while. So we are, and again, very important is the engagements we're having with, as I said, we decided to go round the non-availability of money to embark on a sensitization campaign. So what are we doing? We wrote to ministries and other public institutions, and we have had very fruitful engagements with tons of them.
So what should be the role of the civil society now in this whole thing? Well,
the civil society, the media, the commission, we're all in this together. They should help us in definitely sensitization, because before even the Access to Information Bill came about, it was GPU and civil society that brought this up and really campaigned for it and put pressure on government. And as I said, this is not uncommon. This happens all over the world, even in developed countries, in Canada and the rest, that happens. So that is the kind of momentum that should continue. Work with the Commission, and in fact we plan to meet with some civil society representatives to give them an update of where we are. And the media, of course. We had also held a press conference. One of the first things we did when we came into being, when the Commission came into being, was to use the occasion of the International Day for Universal Access, which takes place every 28th of September. We took the opportunity sometime in October, because remember, we were sworn in September. Yeah. So in October of the same year, we decided to organize a symposium just to bring spotlight on the Commission in celebration of the International Day for Universal Access. And it was, we would say it was quite successful, because we had government representatives, we had civil society, university students, and we had a very good symposium. Shortly after that, we had a press conference, and then all these documents we've been working on. So as you rightly know, with every new entity, every new institution, you're not just out there, you do a lot of work behind the scenes, and I can assure you that is what is going on right now.
Earlier on you said, I mean, government is key in funding, but the Act also allows you to make your own fundraising. I would like to know from you, does the Act allow you to accept individual donations from the public or private sector?
No.
No. Maybe perhaps someone watching will be saying, oh, maybe I can give the Commission maybe 1 million.
No, from the private sector, unless and until it's a private entity, maybe one who wants to support, let's say, one of our campaign or one of our outreach caravan. But this is the thing. If that private institution for any reason receives public funds, we cannot do that, because you know there are some private institutions that receive public funds for some other things. Exactly. If they do receive public funds, there is no way we can work with or take funding from them, because then it will be difficult for us to challenge them when the need arises if they are defaulting with the law. So if a private institution, if we're to work with a private institution in that manner, it has to be purely a private institution that has no dealings with government funding, absolutely none. Yes, that can pass, because I see that coming back to Ghana, I see that sometimes when they send their newsletters, they would indicate certain private institutions that have supported them in this and that and that. But I'm sure these are institutions that have nothing to do with public funds.
By the way, where's your office located? For someone who is watching and will perhaps want to make a visit to the office, and
Good question, because we're thinking of relocating for the simple fact that it is a little bit isolated. It is in Fajara, we think it's a little bit far.
So be accessible, like
It
we are
should
talking
be-
about
we are
access to
talking about
information.
access to information. Recently, someone came to the
Yeah,
office and said, "Why are you people here? You access to information," and it was so
And you are
difficult
not
to
accessible.
locate it. So, but the reason was at that time we really wanted to have an office to settle down and start doing all this works that I told you about. You know, bringing the two documents, the national roadmap, consolidating it, working on other issues and things like that.
So do you see the need for any legal amendments to the current ATI?
For now, it's a very progressive act, I'll tell you. Very, very progressive. And the good thing about regulations is acts are not easily, you can amend it, but it's not as easy and quick as the regulations. With regulations, you can easily amend. So, but so far, so good. It's a very progressive act.
Okay. We're running out of time, but in just 30 seconds, your message, to those who are watching us, partners, government, and the general public.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say access to information. We're happy that we're one of the countries, the few countries in Africa that have enacted an access to information bill into law. And I want to say that it's one of the best things that could ever happen to a country, because then if it is followed to the letter, it brings about peace. It improves participatory democracy, because now the public can have access to information and they can participate in policy making. It's not like before where you have the top there making decisions. Now you become part of the decision-making process. And very importantly, when it comes to misinformation and disinformation, this is really very key.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Nene Magdol-Guy, veteran broadcaster and current chairperson of the Gambia's Access to Information Commission, which is mandated to oversee the implementation of the Access to Information law enacted in 2021 under the current government of President Adama Barrow. Well, viewers, with that we bring an end to this week's edition of your weekly State of Affairs program. I was your host, Aliou Cissé. Do join us next week. Until then, bye-bye.
Come to IHT Gambia, your gateway to world-class IT education and hands-on training. At IHT, choose from diploma programs tailored to today's in-demand tech fields: Introduction to IT, Database Administration with Data Analytics, Advanced Software Development, Cybersecurity, Multimedia, Graphic Design and Digital Marketing. AI and Machine Learning, Cisco Certified Network Associate, CCNA, Master Industry Leading Tools and Languages, Python, Java, Oracle, Cisco, Microsoft Visual Studio, and more to gain real-world skills that top employers seek. And right now, enjoy special discounts of $4,000 to $10,000 depending on your chosen program. Visit us at 55 Karoba Avenue, Fejora, Kanefin Municipality. Call 346461 4526974 6311320 or learn more at ihtgambia.gm. IHT Gambia, connecting talent to opportunity.